Okay, this section is going to go through the quarterly planning section of the Panda Planner Venture. And this is like the real huge value that you're going to get. This is what's different so much than the other Panda Planners that we have, and what makes it so valuable for businesses being able to run a business around it, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur or even if you're a big company and you're like 60 people. There, we have some of our clients that are customers, people that use Panda Planner, pandas, Panda enthusiasts. Anyway, we have people that run their entire company using this type of system. So you can do it whether you're a team of one or a team of 100 or more. But essentially, this is where we're going to get a lot of value. So you're first going to start with what is your company. If you're working on multiple companies, you can have multiple Panda Planner ventures. And then what is your core purpose? We'll have some additional resources on how to discover your core purpose, but there's also a ton of great information online. But essentially, kind of figure out like, what are you in business for? What are you guys doing? What is ultimately the value that you're providing and you're bringing to the world? And then as an organization, what are the things that you really care about? What are your core values? What are the things that differentiate you? What do you, as an organization and a brand, what do you stand for? If you want some great resource on this, there's some online, but I definitely recommend Simon Sinek's stuff. His stuff is great as far as figuring out what your core values are in a company and kind of like why you're doing the thing that you're doing. Then figuring out who you serve. This is like your customer. You want to get very clear about what is your ideal customer. Who are they? What kind of person they are? What do they care about? What magazines do they read? What shows do they watch? What people do they talk to? What do they talk about? Stuff like that. Then we want to go, and again, like you're doing this on a quarterly basis. So I think these are things that they might evolve over time. So if you did this last quarter and you don't want to go through it again, I'd say that you should probably think about it. See if anything has changed in your core purpose and your core values or who you serve. Ultimately, these things become kind of fluid and they do evolve over time. The why will win is your differentiation. This is specifically like, what is your USP, your unique selling proposition? And also your like, what's your secret superpower? Like, what's your unfair advantage? All that, those things, all these, business jargon, you can just fit them all into this section right here. And then what's most important right now, this is just, the purpose of this is to kind of focus us. I think that in business, there's always so much we can be doing. There's always areas that we could be focusing on, but to just get really clear every quarter and just say like, all right, what is most important for our business right now? Maybe for right now, it's just about revenue. Like, we have a bunch of other stuff we can do, or maybe that's not the case for you. Maybe you're just like, revenue's going fine, but we're just disorganized. So it's going to be organization and accountability and systems, or, whatever the case is for your business. Oh man, I am just not even clicking all the things. Forgetting, I have these extra examples that my team put together and I just forget to click them. All right. So then North Star goal. This is the thing that you're basically like your 10-year goal, your BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. I like to call it a North Star goal, but essentially it's the thing that's like kind of leading every other action. This is what's guiding your movement. And which you can come back to what's most important right now. It's kind of like what's most important right now for our company in order to get us to this North Star goal. And then you want to get into the nitty gritty and the specifics about your 3-year goal. Like what specific date in the future, what is your overall revenue going to be, what profit margin you're going to be going for, and then details and KPIs. And you can go into a lot of detail here and like specifically what are the KPIs. Like you want to paint a picture of what this looks like and try and get as detailed as possible, because that's going to be the way that you're going to be able to reverse engineer it and kind of work and steer everything towards it. Is when you have a really clear picture of what your company looks like what's your organizational structure, who's running it on a day-to-day basis, what's your involvement at that point 3 years from now. All those things are going to be important to kind of know exactly what you're trying to build. And then a more short-term, 1 year from now. What are you trying to accomplish 1 year from now? What are your targets for those? Same thing, go through that same process. All right, next slide. So then now we're going to go into reviewing the previous quarter, and then we're going to go into how we're going to be planning the next quarter. But essentially, the structure of these things are kind of built a way that you can hold meetings. So if you want to do a quarterly planning meeting, you kind of go through the same process with your team as you're planning the quarter. So first you want to look at all right, last quarter, what was our summary of last quarter? Let's look at our exact KPIs. What was the target for our KPI? What was the number that we wanted to hit? What did we actually hit? What were the notes on that? Did we go above it? Did we go below? Why? And then we want to look at our goals. And goals can be called your rocks. But essentially, as a company, what were the overall goals or rocks that we wanted to accomplish, and did we get them done? So we have one this year. You're gonna have more, but I have a bunch in here. Did it get done? And then any issues or notes that you want to address. So then the next part of your meeting or your planning process is going to be address the top issues. Look at from previous quarter, what are the issues that prevented you from hitting your goals or your rocks? And then you want to look at all right, what is our issue? What is the core problem? So similar to the weekly process where we do this in the weekly section, we want to look at what the issue is, but recognize that that might be just a symptom of an underlying core problem, and then address that core problem, and then start to brainstorm potential solutions. And then once you talk about that, you'll discuss the potential solutions. You're going to kind of just figure out what the most viable plan is and to address that, and then you create your action plan. So what is going to get done by when and by who? So this is like there's responsibility, it's delegated, and again, if you're a team of one, it's you, but giving yourself this plan, hold yourself accountable to what you're going to do to change it. And then same thing with assessing opportunities. These are meant for the sort of big opportunities, which is going to come back to like when you're figuring out what's most important right now. Maybe you're deciding between 3 or 4 different products that you guys want to launch. This is going to be ways to assess your opportunities against what you're already doing within the company. So you want to list your opportunity. You want to think about what are the potential revenue or return on investment from doing this. You want to think about how much resources it's going to take, both in people and in investment, in order to actually do that. What is the risk? Do you guys have the resources available? Is this going to be a high risk, high reward type of thing? And then look at the opportunity cost. What are you going to have to say no to that you're already pursuing in order to achieve this? And then you can kind of look at all this together and decide whether or not this makes sense for you to pursue. All right, next slide. All right, now we're gonna get into planning this quarter. And first we start with planning this quarter with like just a brain dump of like, what's everything that we wanna do? List every single thing that you could hope for to do within the next 90 days. And then you're gonna wanna go through all of them and you're gonna kind of star the top 3 to 7 priorities. And these are gonna become your quarterly goals or your quarterly rocks. And again, you can have yourself do this. You can do this as a company or for an individual or for everyone on a team or a division. This process is the same. You start with like, what are all the things you would really want to do? And then you prioritize them. What are the things that really need to happen? And again, you're prioritizing them through the filter of what's most important right now in your company as it pertains to your 1-year goal, your 3-year goal, and your North Star goal. So then you come back here to your quarterly goals. You're going to want to plan out what your goals are. So you're going to say what the goal is, who's responsible for it, what's the due date, and what are the subtasks in order to get to that goal. So then plan that out. You never really want to have more than 7 in a quarter. At that point, it's going to get really hard to accomplish, but I'd say like between 3 and 7 is a good place to shoot for. And then you're going to want to reverse engineer those goals. So when we go back here real quick, you've got your top rocks or your goals, whatever you want to call them, and then you just basically break them down week by week. What are all the different subtasks that need to happen so that by the end of your 13 weeks, at the end of this quarter, you have accomplished all of it. So you're going to want to do this throughout the entire thing, make sure that it's all filled out and that you're clear on what's going to happen every week. You can also follow the same format in the monthly section. It has the these little bullets next to each week. It's the same process. If you're more of a visual person, you like the month overlook view, then you can use the monthly section. If you like the roadmap plan, then you can do it here. But essentially by going through this process, again, this is the same type of process you want to do as a company or as an individual or as a division. But I think doing this every quarter is going to keep you aligned and keep you moving. And it's going to be a way of keeping yourself and your team accountable and making sure that you're prioritizing the right things. There you go. Panda Planner Venture Quarterly Planning section.